Hi everyone, this is Miss Stroud again, and I'm here to walk you through the key components of advisory at Hill. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to access the advisory lessons from your drive. You should have been added to the Hill Google Drive, so I'm going to show you how to get there. If you go over to the left side of your screen, you'll see My Drive. Click this drop-down menu. Mine's a little messy, but if you scroll down, you'll see Hill Middle School. You're going to click that folder, and then this is where you'll access everything that you need for Hill. So this is a good home base for you. You can see that I already color-coded advisory for myself. So yours would not be pink, but you can color-code it for yourself. So click on that, and that will bring you here. Now, a little tip for you is if you want to skip all of those steps that we just did, you can add this folder to your drive, to like your home base. So you do that by clicking this drop-down menu and clicking Add Shortcut to Drive. So that'll just save you some steps when you're accessing these materials. So we're going to go into the first 9 weeks folder. And there's a few things that I want to show you. Before I start, one thing I want to say is that if you're going to be making a copy of any of the materials for yourself, that's awesome. You should be definitely, I would encourage you to create your own versions of things. However, when you make the copy, please make sure to put it in your drive so we can keep this space clean. I'll show you that in a second. But as far as moving these that are already created, you right-click it, click Move To, and you can go back and you can move it to your own drive. So I don't want to touch anybody's stuff, but I also want to make sure this area stays clean so everybody can easily access all of the materials they need. So the first document that I'm going to show you is our planning calendar document. This is another one that would be great for you to add to your drive so you can access it from your home page, because this document is going to allow you to access everything that you need for advisory. So if you want to add it to your own page, you can always do the same thing, File, Add Shortcut to Drive. So that can save you some steps. As you can see, this calendar is broken up by weeks. It says week 1.1, then you'll see the focus for that week, and then it says weekly slides. So this link is going to take you to the slide deck for that week, which is where the lessons actually are housed. So this is going to be the most important thing for you to have access to. Then you'll see that it tells us first the lesson objective for each day. It tells you the title of the activity, so that just gives you a quick glimpse at what we'll be doing in that advisory period. And then it also gives you direct links to every handout that you will need for that day. So yeah, all these things they're already in those folders, but this is just one other way that you can access them. If you scroll down, you'll see that we have the same setup for each week. Right now, we're just focusing on the first 3 weeks of school. So, because we will be making some more changes and adjustments as the year goes on. But all of these lessons and materials will be supplied to you well in advance. So the next thing I'm going to show you is our student journal for advisory. As we went over earlier, you will assign this in your classroom, and then your students should get their own copy of it. And this is where they're going to complete their daily quick writes and journal entries. It looks like this one has already been edited. So make sure you're editing your own copy. Make sure you're editing your own copy instead of the original. So I'll go back and fix that. One feature to notice is it has a table of contents. If you're in present mode, then you can click this link. It'll take you to the correct 9 weeks. It'll also do the same thing if you click the number, the page number as well on there. So when your students are completing their journal entries, they can just type in the date, and this is the space that they can use for answering the prompt. The next thing I'm going to show you is the advisory mini conferences spreadsheet. You do not have to use this specific template, although I highly encourage it because it has really everything that you need for conducting mini conferences with your students. You guys will be conducting conferences every Tuesday and Thursday, and we are trying to make sure that we contact or have a conference with each student in your advisory at least once every 2 weeks. So the first thing that you're going to do with this template is make your own copy and see how it wants to make the copy in the first 9 weeks. I'm asking you guys to not house it there, but to instead make that copy in your own drive. And that way you'll have access to it, but it won't be in everybody's business. And instead of just saying copy, you can put your own name or however you want to name it. All right. So the first thing you would do after making your copy is you would paste your students' names right here. And this is just a tracker for what you discuss in your conferences. I know sometimes I forget some of the things that my students told me if I've talked to a lot of students. So this is just a way for you to take notes. When you have those SEL check-ins and we're really trying to check in on their well-being, how they're adjusting to everything, then this is where you can take a quick note on that. And academic, when we're doing goal setting, when students have struggles in some of their classes and they're telling you about it, this is a good place for you to take notes. And like we saw in the training video earlier, as an advisor, this is where you can really be an advocate for your student. And you notice, oh, they're struggling in math. I might need to reach out to their math teacher. And that's a note that you can make for yourself. So you're not sharing this with your students. This is just for you to track the notes from your check-ins. I want to show you 2 other features of this spreadsheet. I added here an SEL check-in tab. You do not need to follow this as a script. This is just sort of a starting point if you're not really sure how to conduct these SEL check-ins. So on the left side, you see some suggestions for openers. We see some advice for helping advisees with a problem. And then we also have these trust generators. This is from the book Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. And this is just going to be important for building that trust and building those relationships with students so that they feel comfortable sharing with you in this capacity. I also added an academic check-in tab for you. So when you're asking your students about how their classes are going, you can refer to this if you're not sure where to start. There's general check-in questions, looking ahead, like before a test, looking back after a test, and then you have a template for SMART goal setting as well. So again, you don't have to use any of these questions if you have your own way of doing things, but this is just a starting point if you get stuck. So the next thing I'm going to do is take you into the weeks and show you what the lessons look like. We're going to do week 1.2 because that's the first week that looks like a complete traditional schedule for advisory. So again, as I mentioned earlier today, we have classroom assignments. This is where you'll have the document that you assign to the students. These are usually going to be related to the SEL lesson that happens on Wednesday. The teacher materials, These are going to be documents just for you, so that sometimes you might have something that you need to read to the students, or there's a script that you need to follow for a certain lesson, and so that's where you'll find that information. You do not need to upload teacher materials. This is just for your eyes and for your benefit. So I opened that one up. I'm going to keep this one open. And then when I open up my slides, we'll see where I'm going to need this document. So if I go back, I have my week 1.2 slides. This is where the actual lessons are. I'm not going to walk you through every slide, but I am going to show you some of the key components that you're going to see consistently in advisory. You can see on slide 2 that this is a Pear Deck slide. This is the feature that we used today when we did the training. This webinar is not going to go over Pear Deck because just for the sake of time, but I will have a session next week to show you how to add Pear Deck and use Pear Deck. The next feature I want to mention is the opening routines. So you will have opening and closing routines for every single day. This particular routine is a virtual thumbs up. You're going to read a series of statements, and the students will give a thumbs up if they can relate to that statement. One thing I want you to notice is in the notes for the slides, you'll see more specific directions for teachers for that slide. This one is telling you that you're going to actually need this handout. If you follow this link, you'll notice that it takes you to the document that we already opened for this week. So you'll see that there are multiple places to access all the materials that you need. Moving on, I apologize. You'll see an LO for the week. You'll see an agenda at the beginning of each week. And this is, again, just to give your students a glimpse at what to expect for the week, to help build that consistency and that sense of trust and safety with your students. They know what to expect in advisory. As I mentioned before, each Monday will be an Avid lesson. You can see that in week 2, the students are learning how to clean up, organize, and set up their Google Drives. I want to also show you this closing routine that we did earlier in our training. This one says students draw anywhere on the slide. So they would actually circle the emotion that describes their current mood. Some other routines are, you'll see this is through Pear Deck. It's a stress check. So the students will actually slide their desk to show how they're feeling. And then you'll be able to show those responses and get a gauge of the class's overall mood. As I mentioned earlier, Tuesdays will be a day for math intervention on IXL. Please don't worry about IXL right at this moment. We will have more training on that in the coming weeks, and students will not actually begin IXL until the 3rd week of school. But this is the time where you would be conducting those mini conferences. So even in week 2, you're going to be starting those mini conferences. And the last thing I want to show you is just that we have our house lessons on Friday. And again, you'll see some of some of the same routines throughout the week. We want our students to become familiar with each one and not be overwhelmed by all the different routines. And that is it for the key features. So if y'all have any questions about advisory, how it's going to work, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me or text me, and I will send out an email recapping everything that we went over in this session. So again, thanks guys, and I'll be talking to you soon.